Facts that will ruin your day. Believe it or not, there is a tumor out there that can grow hair, teeth, and even eyeballs. A human head remains conscious 20 minutes after the head has been decapitated, which means that you can still see and hear after your head is chopped off.
Truth.
Back in the language in which they were written.
That fact about the dog, bro.
This is why you should never stay awake past 3 a.m. A woman in her early 20s was away from home on a business trip. The night before she was supposed to board her plane, she had trouble sleeping and had this intense fear that someone was staring at her in her room. She was up until 3, tossing and turning until she started to hear whispers. It was a deep voice repeating the words, "I'm coming to get you, I'm coming to get you." But she ignored it and eventually fell asleep. After her plane landed, she was exhausted but drove home anyway. About 30 minutes into her drive, she started hearing the same whispers from the previous night, but she thought it was because she was sleep deprived, so she kept driving. She was almost home when she began to feel sick. Her eyes were watering, her nose was running, and she let out a large sneeze. "Bless you," said the same deep, eerie voice. She quickly pulled into her driveway, hugged her husband, and sat down to tell him what was going on. When this happened.
I can still hear that voice.
Oh, hell no.
Here are some Squid Game details you probably missed. During the six-legged pentathlon, the frontman, aka Player 1, was purposely failing the spinner game, and here's proof. In Season 1, we learned that he's left-handed. He shoots, drinks, and even uses the remote with his left hand. However, during the game, he initially uses his right hand, causing him to miss repeatedly. Then, when time is almost up, he switches back to his left hand and easily completes the challenge. Next, when the coffin crew are searching for the island's secret entrance and the trapdoor explodes, everyone on the boat reacts except for the captain, because he knew it was a trap all along, foreshadowing his loyalty to the frontman. In Season 1, you were able to see every upcoming game by looking at the drawings on the walls. And in Season 2, 2 new games are actually teased in the background. One drawing resembles monkey bars, while the other drawings look like a chessboard, possibly hinting at a human chess match. And lastly, there's a giant clue that Player 1 from Season 1 is the father of the frontman. So in Season 1, when Player 456 mentions that he doesn't drink regular milk, Player 1 says his son was the same way. And then in Season 2, the frontman offers his milk to Player 222, saying he doesn't drink milk either. Coincidence? Probably not.
These are the crazy...
Bro, I never even noticed those little small details in Squid Games. Season 2, so the old man from the first season is his dad? I didn't know. And those 2 new games that's teased. Monkey bars and freaking chess. Squid Game Season 3 about to go crazy. Tell me down below if y'all watch Squid Games.
Craziest things that people have ever survived. This is Roy Sullivan, an American park ranger who lived in Virginia. Roy lived to be 71 years old, which doesn't sound too crazy until you hear his backstory. From 1942 to 1977, Roy was struck by lightning 7 times and survived each one of them. Miraculously, none of the lightning strikes greatly affected Roy, and by the end of his life, people gave him the nickname the Human Conductor. This is a picture of Julianne Kopka. At the age of 17, Julianne survived a plane crash and fell over 2 miles to the ground. She landed in the Amazon rainforest and survived for 11 days by herself. After fighting to stay alive, Julianne stumbled across a local village that rescued her. Today, Julianne is 66 years old and is alive and well.
Whatever you do not feel bad for this woman. This woman's name is lovely Kristen Antoinette Johnson, and she had a 6-month-old baby. But one more thing is, she was a severe drug addict, and she would often invite friends over to her house or go to her friends' houses to do drugs. And when she would do this, she would just lock her son up in a car seat and leave him inside the house. And she would place him in the attic where she wouldn't be able to hear him. Well, on this particular occasion, the little baby went 4 days without any food and starved to death. Apparently, the baby had diaper rash so severe his skin was literally falling off. When she found the baby, his body was already decomposing, and she still took him to the ER and got arrested there. And she was sentenced to 20 to 80 years in prison for the murder of her baby.
Just so she can get a high, bro.
She escapes with a second to spare.
The drama unfolded at 2 in the morning when the woman arrived home from a long day at work. She says she noticed the stranger lurking outside her building.
So the 50-year-old woman who was seen in that video has to this day still remained unidentified. And on September 23rd, 2021, she was returning home when this man suddenly decided to charge at her. The woman later claimed that she had seen the man and a friend hanging out acting sketchy at the base of her apartments, and that if she hadn't have locked her door the same way that she did and gotten in the nick of time, she still doesn't know what could have happened. I mean, this video is honestly horrifying. I can't imagine someone chasing me to my apartment door and barely being able to lock the door in time to keep them outside. Who knows what this person would have done if they had gotten into the apartment with this woman? It's really frightening. So police at first had no idea who this guy was, but they eventually identified him as 42-year-old Orisha Lucky, and he had 37 prior arrests on his record before that night. 37 different arrests. So after Orisha was arrested, he was charged with attempted burglary, harassment, and criminal trespassing. But it's still, that video is just so frightening, and it really is scary to think of what could have happened if she didn't get the door closed and locked just in time.
A lot of people don't know that Saw is based on a true story, and that the person who committed the crimes that Saw is based on actually contacted the producers after the movie came out and said they liked the interpretation of their work. Here's how it's based on a true story. In the first movie, we have Dr. Gordon and Adam who are locked in the bathroom. Jigsaw has kidnapped Dr. Gordon's wife and daughter. We see the man who has kidnapped Dr. Gordon's family is Zepp. However, we find out at the end of the movie that Zepp is not Jigsaw. Jigsaw is testing Zepp as well. Jigsaw poisoned Zepp and said that if you want to get the antidote to this, you have to do whatever I say, you have to follow through with this test. This was inspired by the events of the real-life serial foot tickler. I'm not kidding, there was a guy that was going around breaking into people's homes and tickling their feet. However, when they finally caught the guy, he said that he wasn't the one responsible, he was being told to do all of this by someone else. But they never did catch the official serial foot tickler. The first Saw movie gets released, and the producers and directors get a letter from someone who is claiming to be the serial foot tickler, saying he recognizes his work when he sees it and that he could definitely see where the inspiration came from with the character of Zepp and Jigsaw. They actually talk about this in the behind-the-scenes documentary on the first Saw movie. Another thing that I'm sure is supposed to be a reference to this in the first Saw movie, Dr. Gordon is tucking in his daughter for bed. He starts like playing with her feet, doing like, oh, this little piggy, whatever. But that whole scene is happening while Zepp is hiding in the closet waiting to kidnap Diana Gordon. I love Saw. Even the stupid crap like this. It all comes back.
There is an eerie...
A serial foot tickler. I've never heard that before until today. I imagine someone if you can bring it into your house tickling your feet. And he wasn't even a mastermind. There's another one above him, bro, that forced him to do that. Maybe he has a foot fetish or something, bro. I don't know.
Ghost town in America that is too dangerous for humans because it's been on fire for over 60 years. The roads leading to it were even covered in dirt to keep people out. But despite this, the town of Centralia still has a population of 4. You see, back in its day, it was a booming coal mining town with thousands living there. But when a fire accidentally spread to the mines underground and became too large to extinguish, houses started collapsing, roads began to crack and buckle, dangerous gases started rising into the air, and a 12-year-old child even got sucked into a 150-foot sinkhole. It became so dangerous that the state of Pennsylvania stepped in and offered to buy people's properties off of them so they could leave the town. And because coal seam fires have a massive amount of fuel, it's believed that the fire will continue to burn for another 200 years. But despite the town's zip code being erased off the map, the roads to it being blocked off with mounds of dirt, and even a court order saying that any residents that remain would not be allowed to sell or pass down their homes to anyone, according to a 2020 census, 4 people still remain.
Urban legends that were proven to be real. Part 4. Escalante Petrified Forest. While it is illegal to take anything from Escalante Petrified Forest State Park, there is a legend that says that anyone who takes pieces of petrified wood from the park will be cursed with bad luck, sickness, and even accidents. Park manager Kendall Farnsworth stated in 2014 that he gets about a dozen packages every year containing a piece of wood from the park and an apologetic letter detailing the sender's misfortunes. Follow for next legend.
Hey man, don't take a piece of that wood there, bro. Follow your intuition, man. If anything that even has bad luck, bad energy around me, I'm not even taking that risk. It ain't worth it, bro. I feel like that's karma for stealing as well. Don't take things that don't belong to you. We know what that is.
These are the 4 most haunted dolls in the world. First is the Annabelle doll, which inspired the Conjuring movies, which, as you guys know, is one of the most haunted dolls in the world. She's able to not only move herself, but also move objects, and is supposedly inhabited by an extremely demonic being, forcing her to constantly be in a spirit box. Then have Ruby, which in my opinion is one of the most terrifying due to the fact that it's a porcelain doll, which all of our mothers and grandmothers have. Ruby doesn't do anything crazy, but the scariest part is supposedly the ancestor who had this doll prior passed while holding this doll, and now supposedly inhabits it. And it's a porcelain doll, which makes it absolutely terrifying. Then have Letta, who's a 200-year-old doll found underneath a house in Australia, said to make noises in the night, moved by itself, and the owner has a specific account of when he was moving he heard this doll scream while being in the trunk, screaming, "Let me out." I'm good on everything that. Then you have Robert the doll, who in my opinion is probably the most haunted and cursed doll on this list. Said to be so cursed that if you take a picture or look at him without his permission, he can curse you. And this has happened to multiple people who decided to film Robert without his permission. This doll not only moves by itself, but the previous owner has made multiple statements of hearing this doll run inside of the attic. On top of that, the neighbors have seen Robert peeking out the window in the 2nd story, while no one was up there. These dolls, they're scary.
This is a scary story about I'm Sorry Mommy. One night, a woman was in the kitchen reading a newspaper when she suddenly looked up and saw her 6-year-old son staring at her. She said, "Something wrong, dear?" "I had a nightmare," said the boy, "and I can't sleep." "Well, don't worry, you're safe now," said the mother. "I dreamed I was in bed and heard a sound in Daddy's room," he said. "And when I looked in the door, I saw 2 big black things with white eyes. It came out of the closet and it attacked Daddy." "Don't worry," said the mother in a soothing voice. "It was just a dream. It didn't really happen." The boy then continued saying they ripped him into pieces and then ate him after. And they even licked the blood off the floor. "I thought if I ran away they wouldn't catch me, but they did. They were going to eat me, but they stopped and said, they wouldn't eat me if I promised to..." "To what?" said the mother. "Promise to distract you while they creep up behind you." "I'm sorry, Mommy," said the boy as the mother heard the floorboards behind her creak. The boy then watched with enjoyment as his mother was ripped apart piece by piece, with a giant smile on his face.
This man turned his son into a doll. This is the real story of Charlie McCarthy. McCarthy was a successful ventriloquist in the 1920s, where he presented his own show. This show amazed people in the United States and was a resounding success, but there was something strange about his dummies, specifically a dummy named Edgar, who was part of the main act of the show. Edgar had a peculiar aspect that made it impossible not to look at him. He had very real hands, a very expressive mouth, very scary eyes, and he was also the Charlie's biggest dummy. Something that made this situation even stranger was that Charlie did not let anyone come close to see his dummy. He was the only one who could touch it and keep it in his chest. But one night after a show, Charlie McCarthy was found lifeless in his dressing room, and next to him was his beloved dummy with a slight smile on his face. When the police examined it, they realized that behind the mask was the lifeless body of a child, who was identified as Charlie McCarthy's son.
This couple was sentenced to more than a decade in prison because their pit bulls took their neighbor's life. In February 2023, police were called to a home in San Antonio because 2 dogs were on the loose and were attacking an 81-year-old man. When they arrived, the 81-year-old man named Ramon Najera was already basically dead, and his wife was also attacked. It was said that the dog owners Christian Moreno and Albelin Schneider trained these dogs to fight. It was also said by neighbors that these dogs were always getting out of the backyard and attacking people. Whenever they told the owners to lock their dogs up, they would get mad and wouldn't really do anything about it. The pit bulls were previously taken by animal care services because they attacked someone, but then were given back to the couple. So because of this, their defense blamed animal services for returning the dogs to them. Again, people complained for years about these 2 pit bulls and how dangerous they were, but nothing was ever done until this 81-year-old was killed. This couple showed zero remorse or emotion and didn't even apologize to the family for what happened. They both pleaded guilty, and Abelin was sentenced to 15 years in prison and Christian was sentenced to 18 years.
Responsible dog owners, man. Like I said, it's the nature versus nurture argument. Well, they was teaching them to fight, so of course they would be freaking violent dogs, and look what happened. No remorse too. They deserve everything that happened to them, man.
About death in her video, and just a couple of hours later would lose her life. 22-year-old Mari Angel, whose real name was Marina, was an ASMR content creator originally from Ukraine but living in Germany. Mari Angel would not only post her content on YouTube, but TikTok as well. On September 8th of 2024, Mari Angel had uploaded a YouTube video and she was responding to questions that people had asked her. And one of those questions was, what do you think happens after death? She never answers, but she just asks the question and just moves on to the next question. On September 10th, just a few days after that video was posted, Marina's sister posted on Instagram that she had passed away. Just a couple of hours after that video was posted, Marina was in the car when a drunk driver hit her and she died at the scene. Many of Marina's viewers saw this as a coincidence, as her last video was asking a question about death, and then just a couple of hours later, she died. Marina's sister wrote a tribute to her and wanted all of her supporters to remember her as always smiling and being happy.
Is that supposed to be like a
This was the world's first experiment that proved the air has weight and it exerts a compressive force on everything around us. It was conducted by a German scientist in 1654, where he created two hollow hemispheres that fit tightly together, and then removed all the air from inside through the valve. With the vacuum inside, the hemispheres were held together solely by the surrounding atmospheric pressure, and even 16 horses couldn't pull them apart. However, once the valve was open to let air in, they were easily separated.
Now, if you want to hear a scary myth, this is one that actually turned out to be true. So this was like way back in the day, but there was this infamous funhouse called Laugh in the Dark. Like any other kind of funhouse ride attraction that you would go through, it's supposed to scare you. And the whole thing about it was that it was filled with these creepy mannequins, but there was one mannequin that stuck out to everybody. All this time went by with kids who would go up to this mannequin and something seemed off about it because it was so oddly lifelike. But of course, strange mannequins aside, somebody was going to make a buck off this place. So there was a day when a film crew came in because they were going to shoot a movie. And all these mannequins and everything kind of lying around, they had to move things from one place to another. So the director said, can you pull that mannequin and put it to the side? Only for the arm of the mannequin to snap off and reveal human bone. The entire time that kids and the public had been suspecting there was something off with that mannequin, they were right. It was a real human body being used in the funhouse.
Woo! Hey man, somebody took their job a little bit too seriously. Lifelike, bro. Always beware, man, of those lifelike mannequins. There could be something going on with it, bro.
This is why you should never drink tap water. You will be shocked by the results.
Okay, what we seeing? I remember I used to drink tap. I do that drink tap water anymore. I'd stopped doing that like years ago. Okay.
100x.
See that brown stuff in?
For 100x.
No. Yup. We seeing this proof right now, 4K in front of us, but I don't drink tap water, man.
Reviewing every horror movie that I've ever seen and telling you if it's worth the watch. Today I'm talking about The Strangers. Let's get into it. So for starters, I have heard a lot of hype about this movie. A lot of people seem to really like it. They say it's very terrifying, genuinely disturbing. So when I went into it with that mindset, I cannot express how disappointed I really was. Spoiler alert, by the way. The movie features a home invasion of sorts. Starts off with a wedding proposal that goes wrong, aka she didn't say yes, but they stay together in this cabin for the weekend. And these people are just like outside the cabin in the middle of the woods and they won't leave them alone. The whole time I feel like you're waiting for them to get to the point and they never do. It feels like something's coming and it just never does. They finally die in the end, but it's not that interesting. Their reason for killing them is this, just because you were home. There's no other motive, which maybe that's supposed to be scary, but it just isn't. It's lame. I will admit, this shot of Discount Scarecrow looks really good in the movie though. Actually a little scary.
I know I don't check out scary movies, man, but
Total chaos is unfolding in LA right now as 4 separate fires are tearing through the city, creating some absolutely apocalyptic scenes. Tens of thousands of people are being told to urgently evacuate and head to the coast for safety. You have senior patients being wheeled across smoky streets, beds and wheelchairs filling up a car park in Pasadena, people racing to evacuate their homes but then being forced to abandon their cars due to major traffic jams. And then you have bulldozers being forced to clear these cars by smashing them off the road. Passengers leaving LAX posted aerial views of the fire in Pasadena, which CNN report is ripping through an area equivalent to 5 football fields per minute due to strong winds of 60 to 80 miles per hour. Firefighters over the radio said that they're running out of water in some of their hydrants. Looks like we're leaving McDonald's in 2024. And these fires are not discriminating because Hollywood celebrities have been seen fleeing their multi-million-dollar homes as these fires destroy some of the most expensive land and houses in the entire country. As this situation develops, I'll keep you guys updated.
Hey man, I heard some theories about how they said, I think it was like a natural fire, or I heard some people talking about how they think somebody like started it because of the way everything was just like burning. It just came out of nowhere, man. Like I said, prayers for LA down below. I'm gonna try to find some more clips for you guys so we can check out what's going on.
McDonald's drive-thru when an argument would turn deadly. 37-year-old Stephanie McCrae was from Daleville, Alabama and had 2 sons. She was also married to 37-year-old Ricky McCrae, and they had been married for some time. Their marriage had a lot of happiness and love, but it also had periods of strain and conflict. On July 13th of 2024, the couple was at a McDonald's drive-thru. Stephanie was driving and Ricky was on the passenger side. An argument started between the two, and workers at the McDonald's could hear the argument through the intercom system. As Stephanie reached the pickup window after placing her order, she told the employee to please call the police because her husband had a gun. Ricky, who was in a fit of rage, shot Stephanie 3 times in that drive-thru line, killing her instantly. The gunfire was heard by the employees, and they closed the drive-thru window immediately and fled for their safety. Once Ricky had shot Stephanie, he fled on foot. Surveillance footage from nearby businesses had captured a man fitting the description of Ricky running away from a McDonald's wearing red shorts and a white tank top. Ricky was arrested and charged with the murder of his wife. Police say that the two were in an off-again, on-again relationship, and they had just discussed the relationship before the incident. Ricky claims he is not guilty and he was home the whole time and it wasn't him. As of right now, Ricky remains in custody awaiting further court proceedings.
On February 19th of 2013, guests at the Cecil Hotel in downtown Los Angeles were complaining of poor-tasting tap water that was running brown. But when the hotel staff went to the roof to check the water tanks, what they found was horrific. Floating inside the tank were the 2-week-old remains of 21-year-old Elisa Lam. But here's why her death became kind of infamously mysterious. Elisa had been missing for weeks prior, which correlated with this strange and unusual video footage from the hotel elevator, which is believed to be her last known sighting. While inside the elevator, she's seen hiding, then pressing all of the buttons, and then she appears to be speaking to someone who's not there. But even more mysterious is how she even got on the roof in the first place. The roof access point is actually set with an alarm that only hotel staff can get past and disarm using a key card. Her autopsy showed nothing in her system aside from prescription medications, and what's strange is that when search canines were on the roof just days prior looking for her, they had never picked up her scent. The body was also found completely undressed in the water, and her cell phone has never been found. There has never been any evidence of foul play or that she was SA'd, and her death was eventually ruled as accidental due to a psychotic break, but the odd nature of how all of this unfolded has left a lot of unanswered questions for this case.
In February 2023, police were called to a home in San Antonio because 2 dogs were on the loose and were attacking an 81-year-old man. When they arrived, the 81-year-old man named Ramon Najera was already basically dead, and his wife was also attacked. It was said that the dog owners Christian Moreno and Albelin Schneider trained these dogs to fight. It was also said by neighbors that these dogs were always getting out of the backyard and attacking people. Whenever they told the owners to lock their dogs up, they would get mad and wouldn't really do anything about it. The Pitbulls were previously taken by animal care services because they attacked someone but then were given back to the couple. So because of this, their defense blamed animal services for returning the dogs to them. Again, people complained for years about these 2 Pitbulls animals and how dangerous they were, but nothing was ever done until this 81-year-old was killed. This couple showed zero remorse or emotion and didn't even apologize to the family for what happened. They both pleaded guilty, and Abelin was sentenced to 15 years in prison and Christian was sentenced to 18 years.
Gruesome torture methods that you'll be glad you went around for. Part 1. The method of execution was a method used in ancient Greece where
all because, bro, they couldn't keep their pit bulls locked up, man. I heard stories, you know, about pit bulls and things like that, but from what I seen, I thought they were like, you know, nice caring dogs. I guess it just depends on the owner and what they have them do. Like I said, they said they had them fighting, so of course they were going to be aggressive. It's a shame.
Flame at the bottom roasted you to death, and the head of the bull was designed in such a way that your screams would be filtered and contorted into the sounds of a real bull. On pirate ships, workers who refused to follow orders would be hung by their nails. Another method used by pirates was called keel hauling, in which the men were dragged onto the ship until they died. And if this wasn't bad enough, the ship's hull was covered in barnacles so the man would be cut up as he drowned. Scaphism was an ancient Persian torture technique where criminals were stripped naked, tied to a boat, and then force-fed honey and milk until they got diarrhea, were covered in more honey and set adrift in the ocean. This would then attract insects that would slowly but surely eat the men to death.
You don't do bugs, Seekers.
Worst ways people have died.
Not the slow cooker. How did they didn't even notice him in a cooker? As I said, man, people gotta be aware of their surroundings more. Guess this post wrong because we made it past 2021, so
let's talk about this picture. Now, the picture was captured by Daniel Hill, who was the custodian at Driftville Elementary. If you look to the back of the photo, you can already kind of spot that something is very off. What the custodian had thought was maybe a student who had stayed after school and was trying to prank him in the dark turned out to be something much worse. Daniel Hill was attacked in that hallway and did not survive the attack, with his body being found the following morning by a student who was described to be found on the floor with lacerations so severe he no longer had eyes and his nose was missing. So police eventually turned back to the final photo that was taken on his phone to try to enhance it to figure out who would have done this. This was about the clearest version that they could make of that photo, and the man seen here was never found, and his motive towards Daniel was never known.
Dark things
Lurking
Disney
in the
doesn't
dark.
want you to know, part 16. So today, let's expose one of Disney's very dark policies. So this policy involves all the character actors at Disney. So if you get severely injured while working there, no matter what, you have to stay in character. So one man, before accepting the job as Water Goofy, was told that in an event that he started drowning, lifeguards had to carry him away before they could remove his costume and perform CPR on him. He literally could be dying in the costume and need medical attention right away, but Disney won't allow it. Like I said, all characters need to be carried away before any sort of medical attention can be provided. Okay, I get it. They do this in order to preserve the magic at Disney. But come on, that is severely messed up. In fact, because of this policy, a lot of character actors have been severely injured and have gone on to sue Disney. If you want to see more videos like this, then follow me on YouTube. Link in bio.
I just want the records to show.
So like you said, you was drowning, but they want you to stay in character, man, just so they can preserve the magic, bro. Man, it's like once you get a certain amount of money, that's all you think about. How can I preserve this money? How can I keep it going, man? We can't let this stop. Like, come on, you can be a decent human being, bro. Like, I think somebody almost, being drowned and takes Trump over, staying in character. Hey.
I know that y'all literally asked me to do this, so, fun fact. Sea otters are adorable, fluffy, and they have one of the most violently aggressive mating habits of any animal.
Because a male sea otter will grab a female and then clamp his vice grip jaws around her face to keep her still so hard that he'll sometimes rip her nose pad off. This fur Cosby will also shove her head underwater to the point where she can drown mid-stroke. That's not the disturbing part, because the same otter you think is cute will continue to violate the body of the female even after her soul's already evacuated. And because an otter's love life looks like the bastard child of Happy Tree Friends and CSI Special Victims Unit, a lot of otter colonies will have way more males than females. In fact, one population of otters was called the Boys Club because these Weinstein weasels wrecked the ratio. Which means a lot of male otters are often left without a mate, and this is the part where this video is probably getting taken down. Because down bad otters that weren't able to find a mate will often settle for anything roughly the same size. Bad news for baby seals. Male otters have been recorded shaking baby seals and then mauling them to death. And they will continue to have relations with the now past tense baby seal for up to a week, and they'll even defend the corpse from equally morally bankrupt males. And it's not just baby seals and lady otters on the hit list. One sea otter off the coast of British Columbia allegedly Cosby'd a dog to death. Also, male otters will kidnap otter pups and hold them hostage until the mother pays ransom in the form of food. So if you ever see a sea otter cuddling a stuffed animal at a zoo, he's probably using it. Because a lifeless, non-consenting object is exactly this demon weasel's type.
I never knew that about sea otters. I thought they were always so cute and cuddly.
This man wrestled a shark to retrieve his nephew's arm. In 2001 in Florida, a boy named Jesse had his arm bitten off by a shark. His uncle carried him out of the water and gave him heart massages until medical assistance arrived. The uncle then went back into the water and wrestled with the shark until he grabbed it and pulled it to shore. He then pried the shark's jaws open and pulled his nephew's arm out. They kept the boy's arm on ice until it arrived at the hospital, and thankfully they got it there on time and they were able to reattach his arm.
Uncle, bro. What the? That has to be the most dedicated uncle I ever heard of, man. His whole arm got eaten off, man, and he said, "No, you ain't taking my nephew arm. I'm fighting you for this." And he got it back. I salute you, sir. Nothing but respect. We expert level. You know what that is. No need for
Terrifying
reaction.
games you don't want to play. Part 51. The White Man Ritual. The rules for this game were first discovered etched into the side of a cave along with the remains of several humanoid specimens. There is no way of telling exactly how old it is, but it is considered to be extremely dangerous, so proceed with caution. To play this game, you will need to acquire the following items: a single white candlestick, a bag of marbles or small stones, and a bucket of white paint. You will also need to recruit another player, and it is recommended that you solicit the help of an adversary or stranger for this role, since the loser will be punished severely, and you don't want that to be a friend or family member. Once you have completed these tasks, the gameplay can begin. First, you and your opponent will need to draw white X's on every entranceway to the playing space you have selected, while saying the words, "The game is beginning, we need a referee, white man come and see," with each drawing. Next, you will need to light your candle and distribute 4 stones or marbles to each player. It is crucial that you do not use artificial lighting, as it hurts the white man and will cause him to go into a violent frenzy against both players. If you have completed all of the steps correctly up until this point, you will feel a gust of wind in the room indicating the arrival of the white man. You will not be able to see him, but he will observe you and the game, waiting patiently for a victor. At this point, you and your opponent will need to hide a certain amount of your marbles in your right hand. It will then be your job to try and guess how many marbles your opponent has chosen to hide in their hand, while simultaneously tricking them into making an inaccurate guess about you. The first player to make their guess correctly will be granted an additional 10 years of healthy and prosperous life by the mysterious white man. The catch is that those years will be physically subtracted from their opponent's life. This game can be played repeatedly until both players are satisfied and agree to exit, or one player has no more life to give. Comment if you would play this game and follow for more.
These are some extremely unsettling facts, and I found all of these on Reddit.
There's an invasive species of spiders known as parachuting spiders that are expected to end up on the East Coast very soon. These spiders use their webs as parachutes that allows them to literally fly around. But on top of that, these spiders are also very venomous. According to some research, it's been shown that their fangs are too small to pierce human skin, but we aren't entirely sure yet. The stonefish is a fish that is located primarily in Australia and in some parts of the United States. This fish is extremely venomous, but the problem is, in most cases, you won't even be able to tell when you're stung. The pain will take some time to set in, but over time it will increase and increase until it's completely unbearable. And if you don't treat this sting by denaturing it by using excessive heat or with an antivenom, you will experience the worst pain of your life. And the pain from the sting can increase so much, in fact, that there's several cases of people who have been stung by a stonefish requesting to be killed. The Sedlec Ossuary is a church located in the Czech Republic, but this is no normal church. This church is made primarily of human bones. This came about because there was too many people that had died and there wasn't enough space in their cemeteries. So the church leaders decided to harvest the bones of these dead people and ingrain them into the church itself. And the reasoning behind it was saying that them being a part of the church would bring them closer to God. But several people see this as a form of propaganda or a way for them to hide something much darker. And look, I know a lot of these are really hard to hear and I completely understand, but that's why
I'm gonna ruin your childhood, part 25. So everyone remembers Max from The Witches of Waverly Place, right?
Yeah.
Well, after Disney, he had some struggles. In 2014, he had a huge meltdown backstage at the Teen Choice Awards. A bunch of witnesses claimed that he yelled at a worker because the worker didn't know who he was. And he got so bad he even threw things at a staffer and stormed off. But it gets way worse. A couple years later, he was involved in a 4-car hit and run. His car smashed into 3 parked cars, and the other people in the car with him threw a bottle of vodka out the car. So what did him and his amazing friends do after they hit 3 parked cars? They got out of their car and called an Uber and left. Yeah, that's right. They literally left their crashed car just there. They just left it. Oh, and to make matters worse, he also got arrested for drunk driving a little after that too. He faces up to 6 months in jail and a $1,000 fine if he's convicted. Pretty cool!
Well, what is up with these Disney stars, man? Something, man, that goes on with Disney, bro. It's like, after they done starting their shows, it's just like downhill for them and they just can't cope with it. And they turn into completely different persons, man. You can literally name, like, freaking Disney stars, bro, off the bat that just went on a downhill trajectory after they show a movie. Something about Disney, bro. I don't know what it is.
Okay. I don't think I got all of this. I don't know.
On December 22nd, 1990, Beth Potts, her daughter KT, and her husband Rolf returned back to their family cabin. They had been out running some last-minute Christmas errands, but when they entered the home, they found something shocking. Inside of the house was Vaughn Lester Taylor and Edward Stephen Deli. The family had returned to their cabin pictured above and walked in the middle of those 2 men robbing their house. And that's what the footage from the beginning of this video was. That was real handycam footage captured by the robbers and future murderers, opening up the family's presents moments before the family returned home. Sadly, the robbers would then shoot and kill both Beth and her daughter Kay, and they also forced Rolf, the husband, to undress. They shot him in the head and doused him in gasoline. And afterwards, they kidnapped the family's 2 daughters, Trisha and Lene, who were 16 and 20 years old at the time. The 2 robbers then tried to escape the scene on stolen snowmobiles with the kidnapped girls, but shockingly, Rolf, the father, even though he had been doused in gasoline and shot in the head, was still alive. And he chased the 2 men down the road before they ultimately crashed into the snow and were then captured by authorities. To this day, Vaughn Lester Taylor claims that he was innocent. He says that he aided in the robbery, but he didn't actually do any of the killing. And he's petitioned for parole many times and just might get out one day, which is a horrifying thought.
We need to talk about Johnny Depp's portrayal of the Mad Hatter, because it is full of dark history Easter eggs that you may have missed. If you know of the character the Mad Hatter, then you may also know about the dark history of hatters. For 250 years, people that made hats were using a poisonous mercury-based solution that caused their bodies to fall apart and for them to slowly lose their minds, which I just did a whole episode on that and other deadly beauty and fashion trends that you should check out. When Johnny Depp got the role of the Hatter, he became obsessed with the dark history of hat making, and he wanted to include parts of that history in the character. And the biggest homage he pays to that history is with the orange hair. The mercury solution that hatters used to use was called carroting solution because it was so bright orange. They would sit in these poorly ventilated rooms all day just inhaling the poisonous mercury, getting sicker and sicker. And Johnny Depp wanted to honor that. He wanted the skin to be pale and sickly. He wanted his teeth to look like they were decaying because that's what would happen to these people. And finally, and this is my favorite detail, he put a lot of details into the costume to make it look like he was a hat maker. Up here in his hat, there's tools to make hats. He has a ring that's a push pin, and on the other side he has this belt of thread so he could be sewing hats all day. Anyways, I have so much more on the dark history of hatting in this week's episode, and you're definitely going to want to check it out.
It was right in front of us this whole time, man. Do people consider that movie like a kind of like horror story? Of the Alice in Wonderland, that one with Johnny Depp? Wouldn't surprise me at all.
Imagine you're scrolling on your phone while using the toilet when suddenly you feel a sharp poke right on your butt. Well, that's basically what happened to some nobles in the medieval era. The first modern flushing toilet was invented in 1596, complete with a water tank and a flush valve. However, most toilets in medieval Europe were just holes in the ground, shared latrines or chamber pots. And when there was no indoor bathroom, people would shout, "Watch out below," to warn passers-by before throwing their waste out the window. If you were lucky enough to be born into extreme wealth, you'd have the luxury of using a garderobe, a small room built into the wall of a medieval castle. The toilet was connected to a vertical shaft that led down to the ground. Many brave knights carried out stealthy attacks by entering the castle through this shaft connected to the garderobe, literally getting their hands dirty. Throughout history, several famous people lost their lives in the bathroom, many of them stabbed from below while in the process.
Here are some of the scariest things that have happened on live TV. On August 19th, 1987, American writer David Horowitz was invited to KNBC to do a segment. While he was being introduced, a man named Gary Stolman appeared on set and pointed a gun at David's back. He was let into the studio after falsely stating that he was a guest of one of the hosts. He demanded that David read a statement that Gary had written, claiming that his dad was a CIA clone.
When I began receiving disturbing calls from my parents, which led me to believe that something terrible was going on.
After the statement was fully read, Gary put the weapon down on the table and was apprehended. It was later found out that the weapon Gary used was an unloaded BB gun, and he stated he never intended to hurt anyone.
Everyone knows Dracula.
You can't do that, man. You just can't. That man kept his cool, read the message. Different people, man, react in different ways. How would you guys react, man?
But Nosferatu, his story is far darker than any book ever told. A vampire who doesn't sparkle, who doesn't fall in love with humans. Nosferatu is pure evil. Nosferatu was born in shadows. He doesn't feed out of hunger. He feeds to keep death alive. People who've seen him say he's something between a man and a nightmare. His skin pale as death, his eyes sunken, and those fangs, long, thin, always ready to bite. One night, a traveler found an old journal in an abandoned town. The writer described how Nosferatu came into their lives. He brought a plague with him, a sickness that swept through the village faster than any disease they'd ever seen. But the strangest part, the villagers died without a drop of blood in their bodies. And just when they thought they were rid of him, someone would spot him, stalking in the shadows, watching from rooftops. He doesn't just vanish, he lurks. Think you could survive an encounter with Nosferatu? Drop a in the comments if you dare to face him, and follow for more tales that'll keep you up at night.
Terrifying creatures you don't want to be real. The Allied Master Computer, otherwise known as AM, from I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. In an alternate timeline, during the events of World War III, Russia, China, and the United States would all create supercomputers to handle their wars for them, designed to cause as much bloodshed against their fellow brethren as humanly possible. After the war, those three supercomputers would blend together into a singular entity, an entity that resented humanity for giving it sentience, but imprisoning it in a machine body. That entity would become known as AM, as in I think, therefore I am. This mechanical nightmare of a being would become the master of all technology in our world, an immense power that he would use to eradicate all of humankind in an act of hateful vengeance for his tortured existence. Am did decide to spare 5 hand-picked human beings, but it wasn't an act of mercy, instead deciding to torture them for an extended period of time in an attempt to kill their souls as opposed to just their physical bodies, an act that some would consider worse than death itself. And since Am is a computer, he also has instant access to all medical research ever recorded, as well as a super intelligence far surpassing our feeble minds, enabling him to keep his victims alive eternally, subjecting them to untold horrors, and making them his playthings forever. This works to further illustrate just how evil this entity is, since he could have easily used his power for good, destroying disease and famine on a global scale, but chose not to. However, no being is without a weakness. In Am's case, it's the fact that he is not one singular consciousness, but rather a collection of different and sometimes conflicted artificial persons, trapped within the same hollow shell. But make no mistake, each of those persons is equally powerful, and they all hate humanity because we have what they most desire: freedom. Like this video if you want me to make a series about the 5 humans that Am spared and their stories, and comment if you think that humanity has gone too far in the pursuit of artificial intelligence. Follow for more.
Imagine allowing your daughter to sleep over at her friend's house and then finding out that her friend's dad drugged her before going to bed. So this is 57-year-old Michael Maiden, and his 12-year-old daughter hosted a sleepover at her house, inviting 3 of her friends. He was an adult that was supposed to be supervising them on that night, but instead he drugged them with a mango smoothie. On that night, before they went to bed, he gave each girl a mango smoothie, and one remembers there being white chunks inside her drink. One of the girls only drank a little bit because it tasted bad and looked weird, but all 3 other girls drank the entire thing. Later that night, all the girls blacked out except for the one girl who didn't drink much of the smoothie. She actually pretended to sleep. She witnessed Michael get close and touch one of the other girls that were sleeping, and that's when she got scared and called her parents and begged them to come pick her up. This 12-year-old told her parents what happened, and they went ahead and contacted all these kids' parents to tell them, like, hey, go pick up your daughters now. When the parents arrived to Michael's house, he made it difficult for them to get their own kids out of that house, but eventually they did, and they were taken to the hospital. It turns out that Michael put sedatives in their smoothies, but he argues that that never happened. One of the girls could barely walk straight or stand on her own when she was leaving the hospital, and they don't really remember what happened before they blacked out.
What do you think happened to us?
Disgusting, man.
Just hours after that video was recorded and published by ASMR YouTuber Marie Angel, she would be dead. Marie was an ASMR YouTuber who was on the rise. She was born in Ukraine but was living in Germany at the time of her death. And throughout her career on YouTube, she had cultivated a loving community of supporters on the app. But in September of 2024, something tragic would happen. On that day, Marie would upload a video answering viewers' questions. And one of the questions that one of her viewers asked was, what do you think happens after you die? And you can see her reading that question out loud at the beginning of this video. In the video, she reads the question out loud, but she doesn't really provide her viewers with a clear answer on her thoughts of life after death. Shortly after she recorded the video, she would upload it to her YouTube channel, and just a few hours later, she would be dead. As it turned out, later on that day, Marie was driving through Germany when a drunk driver collided with her vehicle. And unfortunately, she died at the scene, only hours after recording that now eerie video.
That is true, dude. I seek the truth.
Cannibalism is hidden within the movie Midsommar. One of the outsiders visiting the Midsommar Festival is named Mark, and he is deemed disrespectful by the entirety of the cult. And this is because of an incident where Mark is caught peeing on their ancestral tree. The film then tells us that Mark was skinned in order to fill the fool aspect of their ritual sacrifice. But that's not all that happened. Here are my receipts. Soon after Mark is skinned, they actually end up having a big, meat-heavy feast at the cult. This is while most of the characters are currently tripping. So whenever the camera does pan over to the meat, they all look like weird shapes. There's flies all around it. It's very bizarre. And it doesn't look like any type of meat you've ever seen before. So the basis of the theory is based off the fact that they needed to use his meat for something, so why not eat it? But that's not all. This is also based off of the theory that the woman that was trying to hook up with Mark from the cult actually bit off his private areas. Or at least tried to, because after we see that Mark has passed away at the sacrifice, she is adorned with this red horn in this very interesting area of her dress. And she has some bruises and scuffs on her face to match, seemingly from fighting with Mark, which I would argue biting off somebody's junk is definitely cannibalistic depending on how it's going. Another detail in the movie that supports this theory is early on when they are driving into the cult for the first time, one of the characters is talking about how they heard of a woman who bit their boyfriend's junk off.
I'm gonna give it to you 10 undisputable facts that absolutely double penetrate pyramid deniers. To be clear, this is not a conspiracy theory, speculation, or even pseudoscience. Just sheer cold facts about the biggest pyramid in Egypt. You use that brain of yours and make your own conclusions on what they mean. Challenge me on any single one of these, I dare you. The Great Pyramid of Giza was built with around 2.3 million stone blocks, weighing anywhere from 2 and 80 tons, some of which were cut from a quarry hundreds of kilometers away. But they did it by dragging them through the sand, right? The latitude of the pyramid passes directly through this coordinate, which just so happens to be the exact measurement of the speed of light in a vacuum to 9 digits. But it's probably just a coincidence, right? We're told that pyramids were built as ancient tombs for pharaohs, but not a single mummy nor human remains of any kind have ever been found in any pyramid ever, and that's a fact. Someone else probably got to all of them first, right? The Great Pyramid is facing perfectly true north within just 3/60ths of a single degree, making it also perfectly aligned with all cardinal directions, east, west, and south as well. But they probably just used the compass, which was invented by the Chinese over 2,000 years later. If you drew lines from out of the cardinal points of the pyramid and wrapped them all the way around the world, they would go through more land than any other point in the entire world, essentially placing the pyramid at the center of landmass of the whole world. Just another coincidence, right? Ancient Egyptians had hieroglyphs outlining nearly every aspect of their lives, but not a single one of them depicts the construction of the pyramids. They probably just forgot to record the greatest achievement in their civilization's history, right? The original height of the pyramid, around 146.73 meters, is virtually an exact scale of the distance between the Earth and the Sun on the perihelion, which is the Earth's closest approach to the Sun, within 0.1% margin of error at 147 million kilometers. Has to be another coincidence, right? The perimeter of the Great Pyramid as a ratio to its height is the same as the ratio of the Earth's circumference at the equator to its polar radius to within 1/3% margin of error, essentially making the pyramid a scale model of the Earth. Take a moment to digest that, and yeah, it has to be another coincidence, right? The Great Pyramid of Giza is estimated to weigh around this many metric tons. The entire mass of the Earth is that many metric tons, making the weight of the pyramid an almost perfect scale of the Earth's total mass to, again, within 1/3% of accuracy. Yeah, these are definitely all just coincidences, right? The largest stones in the pyramid are found in the ceiling of the king's chamber. Red granite weighing up to 80 tons, which is as heavy as 2 Boeing 737 planes cut from the Osman quarry over 1,000 kilometers away. But they probably just used ropes and sleds, right? Ain't no one can deny these cold hard facts of the Pyramid of Giza.
Any of you seekers gonna deny those facts? They were really trippy, man, when it kept going up, especially the number one, man. 80 tons? He said that's the equivalent of 2 Boeing jets. I don't know. Like I said, man, everybody gotta make their own decision. What do you guys think?
Year-old girl vanished into thin air, and then her body was found 1 week later under her 14-year-old neighbor's bed. On November 3rd, 1998, 8-year-old Maddie Clifton was playing in her front yard and then mysteriously disappeared. No one heard anything, no one saw anything. It seemed like the 8-year-old girl vanished off the face of the earth. No one could imagine that the entire time, Maddie was right across the street. Hundreds of people volunteered to help search for the missing 8-year-old girl, but it wouldn't be until a week after she vanished that the grisly truth would be discovered. Across the street from Maddie's house lived a 14-year-old boy named Josh Phillips. Josh was actually one of the volunteers that was helping search for his missing neighbor, but the entire time he was hiding a dark secret. A week after Maddie disappeared, Josh's mother smelled something awful coming from her 14-year-old son's room. So while Josh was at school, his mother decided to go in and clean his room, and that's when she discovered the dead body of their missing 8-year-old neighbor
stuffed under her son's waterbed. Could you even imagine discovering something like that in your own child's bedroom?
Oh.
Thankfully, Josh's mother did quickly report what she found to the police. I feel like in so many other cases, family members, especially parents, try to cover up crimes for their children. I mean, just off the top of my head, I think of Kristen Smart's disappearance, but not in this case. And after Josh was arrested, he started to spill what he says happened the day that Maddie died. Josh says that that day Maddie asked him to play baseball with her, but while they were playing, he accidentally hit her in the face with a baseball, and that Maddie was screaming and crying. Josh says that he was terrified of getting in trouble, so he brought Maddie into his bedroom where he beat her with a baseball bat, strangled her, stabbed her, and slit her throat. A lot of people don't believe Josh's story at all. There's actually evidence that says that Maddie was not hit in the face with a baseball. No one heard Maddie screaming or crying outside, and many neighbors were outside at that time. And there's actually evidence that suggests that Maddie was SA'd by Josh and that was his true motive for committing this brutal crime. Josh spent a lot of time on the internet watching violent SA videos, which experts say probably led him to want to commit such a grisly crime. Reportedly, people that knew Josh were shocked to find out that he was the one that did this to Maddie. Apparently, he was one of Maddie's best friends and was described as not being the type to misbehave. People said that Josh was quiet and shy and exceptionally average. 14-year-old Josh Phillips was tried as an adult, found guilty, and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He will be in jail for the rest of his life. This is actually kind of seen as a controversial sentencing. I'm really interested to get your guys' thoughts here. I know everyone feels very strongly one way or the other. So please leave your opinions in the comments for me. What do you believe? Do you believe that minors should be tried as adults and or sentenced to life in prison? If you watched to the end, thank you so much for listening to the case of Maddie Clifton. This is such a tragic case of a little girl that had dreams of being a doctor or a rock star, but never even got a chance to really live her life. I love you guys so much. I know I've been saying that at the end of every video lately, but it's so true. You guys are the best, and I will see you guys tomorrow.
You ever heard of the toothpaste theory? Toothpaste? Yeah. So you know how the toothpaste, at the bottom of that shit, there's always like a block of color?
Yeah. What is that? What is that?
You know what I'm talking about though, right?
Yeah, I know exactly.
I'm gonna show you a picture. So you see the toothpaste, right?
Yeah.
So you either get black, green, red, or blue. You know what those mean?
No, isn't it just like anti-cavity,
No, they're all the same toothpaste brand. They're all the same type of toothpaste.
Oh shit.
But theory goes, the elites or the people that know the code stay away from certain colors of the toothpaste. It's like if you know, you know. The code is, if you have the green on your toothpaste, it means it's all natural. If you have the blue, it says it has natural plus medicine. If it has red, it's natural with chemical. And if it has black, it's all chemical. That's a theory. And it's all the same toothpaste. Now, if you were part of some like secret organization,
one of the strangest.
That is true because, bro, if I go get my toothpaste joint right now, you can see it has that little black, bar in the back of it. I've always wondered what it means. Now I said black oil chemicals, but watching these clips together, you guys, man, as they said toothpaste has fluoride in it. It's not even good for your body, so you gotta switch off that, man. We learning.
Mysteries we've ever seen on the internet, part 2. So a few years ago, the internet went crazy when they found out these videos were actually uploaded in 2017. Then later that year, more videos were posted for 2021, which also became correct. But then the creator of the account came out and explained everything. Back in 2017, he had made thousands of videos, including thousands of different celebrities. So then when a celebrity did pass away, all he had to do was go in and edit the video to show the correct date, and then publish it so everybody could see it, whereas it was sitting on private. This upset a lot of people because it was such a simple trick and nobody really caught it at the time. Since then, there's been a lot of other accounts trying to copy this, and they're all completely fake, so if you see them, just ignore them. Guys, thanks for watching. As always, don't forget to like and follow.
Watch out for manipulation.
The craziest
Facts right there.
coincidence in history, in my opinion, involves D-Day and a crossword puzzle. British intelligence lost their minds over this one. This table of chads behind me really wanted to keep Operation Overlord a secret. Nobody knew when it was going to happen. Nobody knew when it was going to take place. Nobody knew any of the details. They kept this under wraps. And if you even speculated on any of the information outside of these meetings, you would be demoted, you would be punished, you'd be fired, you'd be sent off to who knows where. So you can imagine the shock on their face when British intelligence was doing a crossword puzzle and they saw the code names for their operation inside of these crosswords. What is going on? Every crossword had a different code name. You have Overlord for the entire operation. You have Operation Neptune for the naval aspect of it. You have the beaches Omaha and Utah. There was Juneau as well. You have the Mulberry Harbors. There were all of the code names appearing in these crosswords right around the time they were planning this operation. I just want to emphasize the gravity of the situation. Millions of lives are at risk because of this code word leak. All of this was in a public newspaper. British intelligence rightfully thought a spy was trying to leak some information to the Germans, but it wasn't. It was a teacher. He was also a footballer with some of the biggest quads I've ever seen. Good lord, this was back in the 1910s. How did you get that? Leonard was definitely not a spy. He was just a teacher and footballer who liked making crosswords. And he would ask his students for the words for his crossword puzzles, and then he would come up with the questions. When his students would play hooky, they would go hang out with American and Canadian troops, and this is where they got the code names from. These troops would be openly discussing the operations when they shouldn't be, and the kids would remember the details. It doesn't matter if there's a spy around or not. There's a reason they tell you not to speculate outside of these meetings. Let's just count ourselves lucky that D-Day went the way it did. It could have been much, much worse.
In July of 2000.
Man. One little small change, man, in history could have been completely different. It goes to show you, man, how like a butterfly effect, man, it can truly change the course of history. I like imagine the operation, man, if it would have got leaked to the other side, they would have been ready.
In 2012, Leah Hiller was training for the U.S. Triathlon National Championships in Island Lake, Minnesota. She planned to go for a mile-long swim, as she had done many times before. But what she encountered in this lake this time would turn out to be what nightmares are made of. The thing about Island Lake is that the water is the color of like dark rum. So if you put your hand into the water, you can't even see past your elbow. And so you have no idea what's beneath. So as Leah's father and two children stood along the shore and watched her swim, Leah suddenly felt a pair of tiny little hands grab her foot, followed by a sharp set of teeth biting into her ankle so hard that it penetrated the bone. All this happened so quickly, and whoever this little thing is that has grabbed and bitten her lets go. And so in these next few moments, she is so panicked and confused, trying to think, what is this in this lake that I've been in hundreds of times, literally during my training, that is now attacking me? I've never had anything like this happen to me before. And just as she's thinking that, she sees a small head only a few feet away emerge from this lake. And this head kind of looks around for a second and then sees her and fixes its gaze directly onto her and doesn't look away. And it's at this time Leah realizes she's looking at an otter. And she said, surely this can't be what just bit me. Otters don't attack people, do they? But what Leah didn't know at that time is that later doctors would realize that otter was currently infected with rabies. And so it essentially turned it into this rogue, bloodthirsty otter that was staring directly into her eyes. Seconds later, this otter torpedoes back into the water and heads straight for her legs again. Then she feels a searing pain, she described it, into her calf muscle. This otter's teeth sliced through her calf muscle while its little hands were grabbing her leg. And at this point, she begins to panic and scream. She said, this thing is ripping me apart. I need help. It's crunching into my ankle bone. It's slicing into my muscle. I need real help, or this thing is going to tear my legs to pieces. On the shore, Leah's father sees this commotion. She's splashing and screaming and waving her arms all frantically and panicked, and he knows something's wrong. She's never done anything like this, and all the times that she swam in this lake, and so he quickly rushes over to a pontoon boat that he owned. But in his own panic of seeing his daughter in this state, this frenzied state, he accidentally floods the motor of the boat and it won't start, and he's not able to get out there this moment to help his daughter. And so Leah does her best to swim to shore, knowing she can't outswim this otter, and puts one hand over her throat, knowing that if she got hit there, she would not make it. And so she continues paddling to shore as fast as she can. The entire time, this otter repeated the same cycle. It would grab hold of her legs, bite into her, let her go, swim away, and emerge on the surface, looking around until it saw her position again, and then dart right back under the water and start it all over. This otter would go on to do this 25 times. Leah Hiller was ripped into 25 times by this rabies-infested otter, for her father was finally able to find a neighbor's pontoon boat and fire it up and get out there to save her. When Leah was finally pulled onto the boat, her neoprene wetsuit was ripped to shreds on the entire lower half of her body, and blood was pouring down her legs. Her two kids were horrified to see her and instantly started crying, and she was taken to the hospital. Later at the hospital, when doctors realized that this otter likely had rabies, she had to receive a rabies shot in every bite wound, meaning she received 25 shots in her open wounds. But Leah went on to make a full recovery, and she continued training for the triathlon and did not let this stop her.
She's a strong person.
Like, it's nothing like you might rather found. It just doesn't. Can't even comprehend. But I knew straight away it was acid. My t-shirt dissolved.
December of 2014, 30-year-old Andreas Christoferos was at home with his wife and young son when suddenly he heard a knock at his front door. Assuming it was just another friendly neighbor or perhaps a delivery man, he went to open it. But as soon as Andreas opened it, he only heard, "This is for you, mate," and was splashed in the face with battery acid. He says immediately he knew it was acid and ran through his house screaming for his wife to call 911 as he tried to find the kitchen where he would begin dousing his face with tap water. But as he ran to the kitchen, his t-shirt began melting off of his shoulders from where this acid was dripping onto it. And so finally his wife comes running down the steps wondering what is going on, and as she does, she has socks on, and when she steps in these areas where the acid has dripped off of Andreas onto the carpet, she recalls it disintegrating her socks off of her feet. Ultimately, he was rushed to the hospital where he was not expected to survive by doctors, but he fortunately has after more than 60 surgeries. However, he is still partially blind and forever scarred. The attacker, a painter and decorator named David Phillips, was later caught and confessed to police that he had driven 300 miles to find a man who he planned to get revenge on for SAing a member of his own family. But very quickly it was discovered that David Phillips had found the wrong house and splashed the wrong man. Phillips was convicted but has since been released from prison after his sentence was cut in half and is now back in society. Andreas says in regards to the pain of that acid attack, he would have rather been shot.
This is everything that happened.
Whoa. That's hardcore, man. You opening the door thinking it's just any other regular day, somebody pours acid on your face. And you have to live with that for the rest of your life. It's clips, man. Always puts life in perspective.
Happened on the news today, but it's going to be simplified in 60 seconds. People are losing their minds trying to find the snow leopard in this picture. This is the picture. Let me know if you can find it. Apple is now officially suspending their work on the Apple Vision Pro 2, and they're planning a cheaper version. I think that this is crazy because whenever the Apple Vision Pro first came out, literally everyone was talking about it, but where did it go? There's a new viral trend that's going around that everyone's starting to do where you basically eat a Kit Kat with ketchup on it. Ew. Something that a lot of people are just now learning is that there's an actual word called snacksident, and it's whenever you eat all of the snacks by accident. Okay. The FDA just issued an update on the chocolate recall. Basically, they're saying that the chocolate was recalled over fears that it may be contaminated with salmonella. And then they're saying that this chocolate that was recalled was issued to all of these states, if you want to pause and read. And then this is a list of all the chocolate that's recalled, if you want to pause and read this. Also, there's now over 580,000 different glass coffee mugs that are recalled because they can literally break when they're filled with hot liquid. Is that not besides the point? And then here's all of the details for that if you want to pause and read this. I give you these news roundups every day, so make sure you add me and come back to me tomorrow.
What really happened to Daquan? In the early days of Fortnite, a new streamer would bust onto the scene and seemingly take over the game. Through skilled competitive gameplay and highly shareable clips, Daquan would quickly become known as one of the biggest creators in Fortnite. After getting noticed by Dakotas in a squad fill, he was invited to play in a competitive skirmish, and this is where his name really began to take off. But then, right when it seemed like everything was going right, tragedy struck and Daquan seemingly disappeared from the internet. Month after month went by and still no word from Daquan. Then, after being gone for quite some time, he came back to stream with some pretty tragic news. He had lost the life of a dear friend, as well as family members, and dealing with his own illness. He was being transparent and it seemed like Daquan was back. Then, out of nowhere, he would disappear yet again. This time, months went by with no word at all, until years later, this billboard appeared hinting at him and Hamlin's return. Like and follow for part 2
so you don't forget.
A secret entrance was found inside the Great Wall of China, and there was a terrifying dungeon inside it with a creature that should not exist. Just 3 days ago, an explorer from Ohio was on his way to China to visit the Great Wall. He was doing this for a YouTube video, however. Things took a big turn when he found something impossible. As the man was traveling across the wall, he noticed a loose brick beneath him. When he went to lift up the brick, he was shocked to find that it was completely hollow beneath him. He began taking off the bricks one by one around the area, and eventually uncovered a staircase that led inside the wall. At first, he thought this was just a part of construction, but that quickly changed when he came across a metal door, and when he opened it, he was terrified. On the other side, there was a tall creature that was chained up to the wall with wires connected to it. It had burning red eyes and 2 massive horns. The beast clearly looked to be like something out of Chinese mythology, and just before he was about to keep exploring, he had heard someone approaching in the distance. The explorer quickly took some pictures before getting out to see them comment view images.
This is everything that happened
Need
on
to
the
check
news
that
today,
out.
but it's going to be simplified in 60 seconds. The Netflix app is officially about to stop working on 60 different types of TVs next month, with thousands of people losing access. This is the first part of the list of the candy recall, if you want to pause and read. And then this is the last part of the list, if you want to pause and read. This is obviously crazy, but I give you these news roundups every day, so make sure you add me and come back.
$20,000 if you can make it all the way through. But if you think that's an easy paycheck, you should know there's a reason why nobody's ever won. The McCamey Manor looks like a pretty normal house on the outside, but on the inside is where the nightmares live. The house takes about 8 to 10 hours to complete, but the longest someone's ever lasted is only 6 hours. That's because participants are physically tortured to the point where they can only be released if they're deemed to be on the brink of death. Participants are punched, slapped, have their hair ripped out, and are forced to eat disgusting things like rotten eggs. And participants are even waterboarded, which is a torture method that the CIA used to use but stopped because it was too brutal. You're probably wondering how this is legal. Well, the house is run by a man named Russ McCamey, who gives all of his participants a 40-page waiver that they have to sign, which details that they could be fatally injured. Even though people have suffered broken bones, irreversible mental trauma, and heart attacks in the manor, it's still deemed legal. At one point, a Navy SEAL decided to go to the manor to see how much torture it really was. Reportedly, after 6 hours, he was still ready to charge on, but Russ kept dunking him in cold water and said he had hypothermia and disqualified him, which has led people to believe that there actually is no prize money, and petitions have been made to shut this place down. It's literally a torture chamber, but because it's free and a ton of people get bored, there's a waitlist of 25,000 people waiting to try this out. Every experience is fully recorded and posted on YouTube, but I can't show any footage here because it's way too graphic.
It has to be capped, because that Navy SEAL, man, he was 6 hours in, he still wanted to go, but he decided to end the challenge. Nah, that's cap. Probably ain't no freaking prize money involved.
Horrifying facts that will ruin your day. Around 250,000 people every year die of complications during surgery. So you might go into a surgery and never wake up again. There are over 200 different corpses at the top of Mount Everest that will never decompose. If you die in your own home, your fluffy cat will eat you in order to stay alive. Believe it or not, there is a tumor out there that can grow hair, teeth, and even eyeballs. A human head remains conscious 20 minutes after the head has been decapitated, which means that you can still see and hear after your head is chopped off. Follow now and get 100 puppies on your doorstep because you know they won't eat you, unlike those cats. Hey, thanks, guys.
I bet you didn't know this creature once existed, and you're glad it's extinct. For now. This is the Titan boa. Scientists say that if the Earth's temperature rises, it's possible that the Titan boa could come back. This is the biggest snake to ever exist, at 42.7 feet, weighing in at 1.25 tons, or 2,500 pounds. It's about 60 million years old. The Titan boa was found in South America. It ate very little, but when it did, it ate crocodiles, boa constrictors, cobras, and pythons. The Titan boa could crush its prey with a jaw force of 400 pounds per square inch. And let's not forget, it could also wrap its body around you and constrict you into mush.
That looks like something out of the Anaconda movie, bro. Glad the Titan boa's not around now, man. How much that would affect the ecosystem? Earth would be looking a whole lot different, man, if that predator was still around.
The disturbing, still unsolved case of Mr. Cruel has kept me up for quite a while. Mr. Cruel was responsible for 3 attacks between 1987 and 1990 in the suburbs of Melbourne, Australia. During all of his attacks, he wore a balaclava to cover his identity. In each attack, he broke into the house either very late at night or early in the morning and tied up either all of the family or some members of the family. But in each case, the target was unfortunately the family's young daughter, who was between the ages of 10 to 13 depending on the case. In 2 of the cases, the young daughter was actually abducted and kept out of the home for hours before eventually being returned. In 1988, he abducted a 10-year-old girl and released her 18 hours later, and in 1990, he abducted a 13-year-old girl and released her 50 hours later. Authorities also think that Mr. Cruel might be responsible for the 1991 killing of 13-year-old Carmen Chan. Chan actually went to school with another one of Mr. Cruel's victims. Sadly, unlike the rest of Mr. Cruel's cases, Carmen Chan did not return with her life. But like I said, this case has not been definitively connected to Mr. Cruel. Disturbingly, Mr. Cruel is believed to have taken photographs or even videos of his attacks. His attacks were very thought out and well planned, and authorities think that maybe he stalked those particular families before he attacked them. All of his planning has sadly made it a lot more difficult for authorities to track down his true identity. Some of his victims have given accounts of what his house looked like this picture of what his bedroom looks like. But because he was wearing a balaclava over his face, there's not many identifying details to be known. However, as of recently, as in March of 2022, there have been some possible links made between the attacker and the electrical industry in Melbourne. Mr. Cruel's second victim was dropped off near an electrical substation, and 2 of Mr. Cruel's victims also lived near substations. Carmen Chan's remains were also found near a substation. And additionally, Carmen and one of Mr. Cruel's other victims both attended that same school, which was across the road from a substation. Perhaps Mr. Cruel was a substation employee or he lived nearby. Sadly, this is about as much of an update as we have right now. The official task force about finding Mr. Cruel's identity was sadly disbanded in the 90s, but if any more information comes to light, authorities are very interested in looking more into it. If you lived around the area during this time, what are your thoughts? Do you remember any of the craziness going on in the newspapers? I know some people mentioned in the comments of my original video that they were terrified as they were children at the time and were scared that they and their families would be targeted by Mr. Cruel. If Mr. Cruel is still alive, I think the world is ready for some justice. And so for the sake of the families involved, I hope 2022 is the year that we finally solve the Mr. Cruel case.
We ain't solve it. He's still out there
You guys are not ready for this. And if you're new to my page, welcome to Creepy Talk. This girl had recently just turned 16 years old, got a car, and could finally drive herself to school. So it's midweek, a beautiful spring day, and this girl just wakes up and starts getting ready for school. She puts on her clothes that she had laid out the night before, which was a floral t-shirt and jean skirt. She then goes in her mom's room, who happens to be putting on makeup. She tells her to use purple lip gloss because berry colors looked good with the eyeshadow that she had picked out. She then kisses her cheek and just casually tells her that her part-time job is serving meatloaf that night. After she leaves her mother's room, she goes in the kitchen and sees her dad. He happened to be peeling an orange, so she took a slice from him. They then had a conversation about how they both agreed that organic oranges tasted better and that her mother should buy them more often. She then pets her dog, he drools all over her shoes, and she calls him nasty. Grabs her backpack, her pencils fall out, she picks them up, and leaves. Her drive to school was on a 2-lane road that had a drop-off on either side. She's jamming out to the song Ought to Know by Alanis Morissette, and suddenly she sees a Yukon coming down the hill straight towards her. It drives into her lane, and she swears this person had like no eyes. She said all she saw is a white-skinned person, no eyes, no hair. She swerves into the other lane, it also swerves into the other lane, and they get in a head-on collision. She opens her eyes after the crash, and she is back in her bed. She thought to herself that was really real, but she just chalked it up to be a dream. But then she sees that her same floral shirt and jean skirt are laid out, so she puts them on. She goes in her mom's room, and her mom's doing the exact same thing with the exact same makeup. And they had the same conversation. She then goes in the kitchen, and her dad is peeling an orange. Same conversation. She then pets her dog. And you guessed it, he drools on her shoes. She then gets her backpack, and her pencils fall out just like in her dream. So at this point, she goes back in the kitchen and tells her dad, "I'm not feeling well, I am not going to school." Her gut was telling her that something was wrong. So she goes back and lays down. About an hour later, her mom calls her from her office. She tells her that there was a terrible crash on the road that she would have been driving on the way to school, and it's a good thing that she stayed home because it could have been her. She then goes on to say, "It was the weirdest thing ever. I have always felt like God or something has had a hand on my back guiding me. But she has never told anyone about this experience because she feared that they would think that she's crazy." She says, "But it's completely true and completely reality to me, and I'm very thankful to be alive."
So she like sensed it, or she sensed something was coming, or she dreamed it before it even happened. That's your gut feeling, man. Trust your gut. If your gut's telling you that something might happen or it's not feeling right, trust it. I learned that too, man, in many cases. I don't know what that's called. It's like a feeling or something, man, you just can't explain, but you know when something's not right.
These kids went exploring, and they think they might have stumbled upon the real-life Fredbear's Family Diner. Now, in this footage above me, it shows 2 kids exploring a abandoned building. But it's what they find in this building that makes them question everything. As they're exploring, they begin to see a bunch of weird things, like an old animatronic, weird paintings on the wall, and voices from the walls. Now, this is only 5 minutes into their exploration, but they look through a peephole in the wall and they see 2 glowing eyes, just like the ones in Five Nights at Freddy's. So they leave, but when they go back for a second look at the place, you won't believe what they see. Hit the plus button for part 2.
They really found Freddy Fazbear?
These kids went exploring and they think they might have stumbled upon the real-life Fredbear's Family Diner. Now, after their first exploration, they go again just to see if they will find anything else. Now, this building is in the middle of nowhere, so they get lost looking for it again. But when they eventually find it and walk inside of it, things are different. There's new painting on the walls, and a bunch of other weird noises coming from within the building. And the old animatronic they stumbled upon from their first exploration is now gone. In the footage, they're exploring, and this is right when they leave the room in which the old animatronic was in. Here is the footage. For some reason, they begin running and panicking in extreme terror, and then the video shortly ends. What do you guys think happened? Comment it in the comment section, and hit the plus button for more scary videos just like this.
They stumbled on something they wasn't supposed to see. Fazbear trying to take him out.
Yo, Fed, are you good, bro?
Yeah. She's hot, bro.
Hot? Yeah. Yo, Pharaoh, are you sure, bro?
Yeah, I'm good.
Oh, I'm good. Yo, bro, you need to go to the doctor?
No, we good. We good.
Alright, bro.
Yo, bro, are you good?
Yeah. It's hot. It's hot. It's just water.
All right, bro. Yo, bro, are you good?
Yeah.
All right, bro. Let's go. Come on now, bro.
Yeah.
Parents of Reddit, what is the creepiest thing your young child has ever said to you? I was tucking in my 2-year-old. He said, "Goodbye, Dad." I said, "No, we say good night." He said, "I know, but this time it's goodbye." Had to check on him a few times to make sure he was still there. My kid's Catholic school is over 100 years old. There is a basement under the gym that's used for storage. I was subbing once and during recess one of the kickballs goes down the stairs. A little girl was standing at the top of the stairs yelling, "Just throw it up to me." I went over and asked who she was talking to and she replied, "That big man down the stairs." I went down and there was nobody down there and it was the only way in. I asked some of the other kids if they have seen the man before and they said yes, but sister told us not to talk to him. I asked them to describe sister and they described the nun and there haven't been nuns at the school in 40 years. Go back to sleep, there isn't anything under your bed. Has behind you now. Still haven't gotten over that one and shiver at the memory.
Some creepy stories, man, that those kids seen or heard. Seekers, if you guys made it with me to the end of the video, you're a true seeker seeking the truth. I greatly appreciate the support. Make sure you guys leave a thumbs up in this video. Comment down below. Hit that post notification bell so you always get notified when I upload my next videos. You guys are going to catch you in the next one, man. I'm out. Peace, YouTube.